I sat on the hard tile floor at the doctor's command. Stand up. I stood. Sit on the floor. I sat again. Stand up. I stood, but I didn't like it. Why was the doctor telling me to sit down and stand up over and over again? My nose wrinkled at the way the hospital smelled. I still don't like that clinical smell. At age 5, I thought everything around me that day was strange, especially the doctor. I had a hard time understanding him when he talked, and he had a long name I couldn't pronounce, like Dr. Eisenowski or something like that. He ordered me again, sit on the floor. You sit on the floor, I wanted to shout. I'm fine. What do you want me to sit on the floor for anyway if you're just going to tell me to stand back up again? Taking directions from strangers was never my favorite thing. But Dad was sitting there and I didn't want to get in trouble. So I did what the doctor said. The tile floor felt cold. I looked up at my mom and Dad. They were watching the doctor closely as he made his observations. We had made the trip to the doctor's office because of my older sister, Amy. Instead of her heels hitting the floor when she walked, she pranced around on her tiptoes. My parents were concerned, so they made an appointment for her at the hospital in Iowa City, nearly 100 miles from our farm. When they took Amy to the doctor to see why she walked on her tiptoes, they had no idea that balancing on the balls of her feet was a classic symptom of a terrible disease. They discovered that in addition to having tight Achilles tendons, my sister also had muscular dystrophy, MD, a group of diseases that cause progressive weakness and loss of muscle mass. In all types of muscular dystrophy, abnormal genes, sometimes called mutations, interfere with the production of proteins essential to building healthy muscles. In other words, your muscles deteriorate over time until normal, independent daily functions you were once able to do become extremely difficult and eventually impossible to do on your own. My sister's diagnosis came as a shock to my parents. As far as they knew, there had been no history of MD in the family. But now that MD had been discovered, it was highly possible Amy wasn't the only one in the family with the disease. The doctor told my parents that since one of their children had MD, he figured the rest of us kids had it as well. The rest of us being me and my little brother Bill. Following the doctor's recommendation, my parents had us all tested. The visit to the doctor began a process of medical testing and asking lots of questions. Blood work showed that my sister had high levels of creatine phosphokinase, or CPK, an enzyme in the skeletal muscles, heart and brain, and an indicator of muscular dystrophy. I also had high levels of CPK, so the doctor was taking a closer look at me to determine if I had MD like my sister. After he finished watching me sit and stand multiple times, he observed me as I walked the halls of the hospital. Then he asked me to run. I looked at the doctor to make sure I had heard him right. You mean I get to run in the hallways of the hospital? Yes, sir. Let me run right out of here.